Hello family, my name is Chris, I am your home gamer dad, and welcome to the next team breakdown for Power Rangers Heroes of the Grid from Renegade Games. This one's going to be a little bit of a shorter breakdown today because we're just going to be looking at this team of three here. Straight from the comic books, I present to you guys the Omega Rangers. So the Omega Rangers first appeared in the Boom Studios comic book series, and I believe it was right after the Shattered Grid storyline that they appeared. I believe their storyline was Necessary Evil, if I'm not mistaken. And if you don't know anything about the Omega Rangers, and honestly, if you don't read the comics or follow the comics, you probably don't, they are Jason, Zack, and Trini. If you remember the TV show in the middle of season 2, Jason, Zack, and Trini ended up leaving the group in order to be replaced by Adam, Rocky, and Aisha. So they went off to like some Peace World conference thing or whatever, but in the comic books, that's all a cover story because these three ended up going to space, gaining brand new Ranger powers, and became the last line of defense for the universe, thus Omega. Now there is a fourth member to the Omega Rangers, a Blue Ranger. However, at this point, she is a villain in the game as opposed to part of the main team, and that's all part of the storyline as well. Maybe one day we will get, I hope, a 2-pack for both Kia and Yale. They both are the Omega Blue Ranger at some point in the comic book series. Yale or Yale, or however you want to pronounce his name specifically, because he's a giant cat and he is the Blue Ranger, which is awesome. But until then, we have Jason, Zack, and Trini, our Omega Rangers. You'll be able to find all three of these in the Ranger United box set. There you can also find Beast Morphers. You'll be able to find the evil version of Kia. I don't know how to pronounce her name. And speaking of which, you'll also find Dane. I think I kept calling him Dine during my SPD run. It's Dane, like Great Dane, I believe it's how it's pronounced. So I apologize anything for that. He's a Nemesis character. Those are also characters that appear within the Necessary Evil storyline with the Omega Rangers are part of. Stay tuned, the Home Gamer Dad. Make sure you're subscribed with the hitting of the bell button and everything like that, because I will be covering Boom Studio comic book villains after this. That includes Kia and Dane. So make sure you're sticking around for that. Now then, let's get going. Calling upon the Omega powers of fire, air, and earth. And water, technically. Hopefully we'll get that one day as well. It's morphin' time. Omega now, Omega forever. Jason Lee Scott, Omega Red Ranger. Best known as the Red Mighty Morphin Power Ranger and their original leader, Jason, Zack, and Trini left the team at the end of the Shattered Grid storyline in the Boom series comic books. Using the World Teen Peace Conference as their cover story, the three headed out to space and were given their Omega powers from the Blue Morphin Emissary. Because of his previous leadership role, Jason was granted fire powers and was given the title of leader of the Omega Rangers, leading the team to fight whatever evils they may encounter across the vastness of space. Omega Fire Power, Jason's morphing call and his special ability. Once per battle, when any ranger performs an attack, you may remove all missed results from that attack. If you do, the next time any ranger performs an attack in this battle, add that many dice to that attack. This could stack really fast if you have a 4, 5, 6 dice attack and you happen to whiff it in some way or just get a lot of misses in your initial roll. You use his Omega Firepower, then you still get those misses on that result, unfortunately, but then the next time you do something, you're adding an additional dice for every one of those misses you remove. So you can add 3, 4, 5 additional dice depending on how bad you roll, meaning that whatever you did poorly at first could really come back around and be super strong on the next attack. Within Jason's deck, you'll find 0x energy cost cards, 5 0 energy, 4 1 energy, and a 3 energy card. He has 5 attacks, 3 maneuvers, 2 reactions, and the standard Type A 3-4-3 shield breakdown. Starting off with his maneuver, Ready Stance, a 0-cost maneuver card. Gain 1 energy, deal 1 damage to an enemy card of your choice, place this card on top of your deck instead of discarding it. So this is going to be a turn that the Rangers are going to need in battle. This is like not really a setup move of sorts because it's only a 1 shield card, so you're not really doing too much defense with it. But at the very least, you are gaining yourself an energy, which is never a bad thing. And you're doing one of my favorite abilities that I love in this game that I've been loving more and more, dealing 1 damage to any card of your choice. Remember, this is going to be something that gets around guard because it's not a targeted attack. It's your choice. It can go to any card on the field at all. Now, placing this on top of your deck is not a bad thing either, because it keeps him in the game a little bit. It does at least would give a 1 shield reduction to any type of damage coming in. or if you are able to draw a card, at least then you know what's on top of his deck. So as much as I would have loved for this to be an additional shield, a 2-shield card at the very least, Ready Stance is something that you want to play. You probably play it a little bit later in the game if you manage to defeat a boss or a minion or a foot soldier, and you have that turn in order to burn, so that way they don't do anything. This would be a great time to do this. Again, Ready Stance, he's readying an attack, so his defense is up, so I would think it'd be a bigger shield card, but gaining the energy and dealing the damage, can't go wrong with that. Each one of the Omega Rangers has an attack that is based on their element within their deck, and we have Fire Strike right here for Jason, a 0-cost 2-dice attack. The next time any Ranger performs an attack during this battle, you may reroll any number of dice during that attack. Omega Jason. Jason himself, from even like the original MMPR version of Jason in this game, was all about a lot of rerolls. His special ability was about rerolls. He had cards that gave rerolls, and then the Transforce added dice, and of course he could just reroll it from there. He kind of continues that here, and this is great because you're still doing an attack. You're doing a 0-cost 2-dice attack, which is really not that bad at all. And there's a lot of ways within the Omega Rangers to continuously add dice to these type of attacks. And then, of course, the next time any Ranger performs an attack, including himself, it's granted a free reroll. A lot of the Omega stuff is like that as well. It kind of sets itself up in a way that even if something bad happens to you during your play, there's a way to get around, there's a way to mitigate that, if not during the turn you're on, but definitely during the next attack that you have. So this way the Omega Rangers never fall too behind, they never fall too deep into a hole where they can't get out of, just things that the Omega Rangers themselves have had to deal with throughout their journeys and their battles across the cosmos. Next we have Leading Slash, a 1-energy 3-dice attack. After rolling, you may remove any number of dice from this attack. The next time any Ranger performs an attack during this battle, add an equal number of dice to that attack. Kind of works the same way as his special ability, but that one focuses mostly on misses. This is great because if you're dealing damage to a card that may not need a lot of like hits left, maybe a foot soldier that only has 1 health left, or a boss card with like 1 or 2 health left, and you're rolling 3 dice, there's a good chance that you're going to overkill that card pretty well. Again, a great way of just constantly adding more and more dice to the next attack from the Omega Rangers. Unfortunately, this doesn't really pair very well with his special ability, but at the same time, it is his special ability. If you've used Omega Firepower once on per battle anyway, Leading Slash is something that you want to definitely use as well. Maybe remove 1 or 2 dice to power up the next attack by that 1 or 2 dice. Reaction card, Take the Initiative, 1-energy reaction, play this card at the start of battle. I'm not a big fan of those types of cards because once this is in your hand later in the battle, it's kind of a dead card. This is something that you really need to have in your hand early in order for you to take advantage of. The Rangers may either ignore the fast keyword to take the first turn in battle or ignore guard keyword during the first turn in battle. So it's all about that first turn. If there's a guard card that you need to get around really quickly to knock out something, Take the Initiative at least sets that up. It's all a matter of prepping the Rangers and seeing what's on the field and being like, all right, so now we can either avoid fast and just take our first turn as normal, which going up against bosses and, monsters and stuff like that could be extremely clutch, especially if they're very, very strong. Or if there's a guard card on the field that's protecting something that you really need to get rid of, great thing to do as well. It does cost an energy, so you always got to keep that in mind. And then it's just a matter of choosing which is which. But again, this needs to be in your hand in the beginning. There's 2 of these within his deck, so it's great cards to have in your hand to hold onto if you get it later in the, in the battle. So this way, on the next battle, you can immediately play it right off the hop. You spend 1 of the energy, but you get to take away the advantages that the villains have and jump in there and do 1 of your own. Next, the power weapon for the Omega Rangers are all Omega insert weapon name here. We have the Omega Katana, 3 energy, 6 dice attack, which is insane, and you may reroll any number of dice during this attack. I feel like this is the power sword. Is the power sword 5 or 6 dice? I'm gonna have to check my cards just to double check, but I feel like that's what this is. The power sword had the same ability of re-rolling all of your dice, but I feel like it's a 3 energy 5 dice attack, whereas Omega, being a little bit more powerful because that's just what Jason is in this form, grants himself an additional dice, or you may even have more depending on what you've set up prior to that. We've already seen a bunch of cards in Jason's deck that adds dice to the next turn, the next attack I should say. or you may have used his special ability, in preparations to play this next. Now, a lot of different abilities and there's a lot of versatility that you can use just for this one card that's supposed to be a single target attack. And look, let me tell you, 6 dice, never anything to scoff at, especially if you can reroll anything that, you just want to try to re-get more hits out of or more power out of. Next is the card that appears in all of the Omega Ranger decks. It's not really a standard issue Sidon, but it is their standard issue ability. Omega Forever, a 0-cost reaction card. Play this card at the end of a battle, so as opposed to the other one where it needs to be in your hand at the very beginning, this needs to be at your hand at the very end. Roll 2 dice and deal that much damage to an enemy card of your choice. It's kind of a finisher. It's the Omega. It's the very last thing that happens. It's the last thing that happens within the lineup of a battle. It's still very difficult to determine if this is a great card or a mediocre card, at least in my opinion. I can see the potential for it, but like something with like the Power Blaster or something like that, you're really then like, do you let a card just stay on the field for the remainder of the game if you have the options in order to destroy it, just to use Omega Forever in the hopes that maybe those 2 dice will destroy it as well? If all 3 characters have Omega Forever, does this stack? I'm pretty sure it can, because it's at the end of the battle and it's like one person plays it. Well, it's a reaction. It's still a reaction. I'm still reacting to the end of battle for each one of the characters. You guys let me know out there if this is something that can be stacked at the end of battle or not, because maybe if you have all 3 Omega Rangers and they each play Omega Forever, that's a 6 dice attack that can be spread around. To me, that's a little bit more worth it in terms of letting cards survive on the field for the remainder of the battle, as opposed to just a 2 dice attack, which at most is 4 damage, which is great, but the likelihood of that happening is very low. Mostly you're going to get 2 damage. So I don't know. I like it. I get it. I understand its purpose. I need to play it in order to really fully grasp the concept behind Omega Forever. And of course, the next session I'm going to do will be the Omega Rangers. I haven't recorded that yet. I'm doing this first as opposed to what I did for SPD. But at the very least, you can look forward to that coming in the future. Speaking of something to look forward to in the future, Omega Zord Red. Jason's Omega Red Zord. Exhaust this card when any Ranger performs an attack. Add 1 dice to that attack. Any Ranger may exhaust another Zord card to add 3 more dice to that attack. The Omega Zords, from what I was reading, initially do not have the ability to form a Megazord on their own. It takes I think it takes a 5th Omega Zord in order to come in order for them to kind of fuse together and whatnot. But the Omega Zords themselves have the innate ability in order to combine with any other Zord within the Ranger universe. So that's kind of what these cards represent. They do something on their own, which is great, powerful, awesome. But then as long as you have another Zord that you haven't used yet, you can exhaust it in order to further power up the existing Omega Zord that you have. It's a risk versus reward type deal because you're taking the risk of needing whatever power of the Zord you have for something later on in the round. And then of course, if you do it, you're gaining a ton of extra stuff. So this is at 3. So you're adding 4 dice to an attack for the price of this Zord and another Zord. Absolutely amazing, fantastic. And I can't wait to show you this action in the game that I'm going to be playing, because I have a good idea of what I want to do with it. And then really try to find a way to make the most out of these Zords every round that I have them available. Zack Taylor, Omega Black Ranger. Jason's closest friend and second in command for the Mighty Morphin Power Ranger team as the Black Ranger, Zack left with Jason and Trini to secretly head into space and become part of a powerful covert ops style team of Rangers, the Omega Rangers. His quick thinking and ability to go with the flow were all enhanced when he was given air powers and taking on the role of the Black Omega Ranger, once again second in command to the new team. Omega Air Power, his morphing call and special ability. Once per battle at the start of any Ranger's turn, you may remove 1 hit token from an enemy card of your choice. If you do, place 1 hit token each on up to 2 other enemy cards. This is an exchange. You're taking 1 hit token away from an enemy card and then adding 1 to up to 2 other cards. So now you are technically healing 1 enemy card, but now you're putting 1 hit token on up to 2 others. Unguarded, this can go anywhere you want, but again, it's only 1 hit token for up to 2 other cards. I think this is amazing. This plays right into one of my favorite abilities in the game of dealing 1 damage to any card of my choosing using Zack's ability. Within his deck, you'll find 0x energy cost cards, 5/0 energy, 4/1 energy, and a 3 energy card. He has 5 attacks and 5 reactions, no maneuvers. And his deck is made up of the 3/4/3 Type A Standard Shield Breakdown. Personally, I think Zack is the most interesting of the 3 Omega Rangers to play as because of his ability to bounce damage around between all the different enemies on the field. Take Tricky Mix-Up, for example. 0-cost reaction card. Play this card after another Ranger resolves an attack. So it doesn't matter what they do, they just have to resolve an attack. It has to be another Ranger, it can't be him. Gain 1 energy, awesome. You may remove 1 hit token from the target and place 1 hit token each up to 2 other enemy cards. So after the Ranger has resolved their attack and it has done all the damage it needs to do for the card it's targeting, Zack can then go in with this ability, remove one of those damages, healing the card, yes, but it's like his main ability where then you can take 2 damage, well 1 damage apiece, up to 2 other cards on the field. It's the spreading it around. It's moving it from one to the other where he is like an ultimate AoE style attacker, but it can go anywhere he wants. It doesn't matter about guard or anything along that ways. Yes, again, it's a little bit of a heal, but I feel like that doesn't really matter because if you just bounce it around, he's creating more damage with each one of the new abilities that he has or each one of these new attacks. I don't know, I can... It's just so cool being able to just deal a damage to anything you want on the field, regardless of, you know, whether it's a passive guarded or, you know, it has a ton of health or anything along that ways, that you can start really knocking down cards quickly in the beginning of a battle if you have something like Tricky Mix-Up and then using his Omega Air Power. And by the time you get down to the card that's really causing you trouble, only need maybe 1 or 2 more hits to take it down. No problem for the Omega Rangers. Next, we have Fake Out Strike, a 0-cost 1 dice attack. Now, bear with me. Here we go. Add 1 die to this attack for each enemy card adjacent to the target that has suffered damage or has been defeated. So, where you are on the field matters. This is something you definitely don't want to play early in the battle because nothing has taken damage, well, generally not. Nothing has been defeated at all. Also remember, adjacency is not only left and right, but up and down as well. So if you're fighting a monster and you happen to defeat, like, put a damage on like both sides of it and defeat it, or put a damage on a foot soldier below it, you're now adding 3 dice to this attack. This could be up to 4 dice, 0-cost attack, depending on how you divvy out the damage on the field, depending on who you defeat first and everything. And I think that's what makes Zack amazing. So far, between his main power and the last card that I showed, you're able to bounce a lot of damage around to any card you want, thus setting himself up for a 0-cost 4 dice attack against a strong enemy. All right, so now we have his elemental ability, the Air Slash, a 1 energy 3 dice attack. You may remove up to 2 dice from this attack before rolling, keep that in mind. For each die you remove, deal 1 damage to an enemy card that has not suffered any damage. Again, this is all a matter of setup for other things. Yes, you're doing a 1 energy 3 dice attack, which is not that great. It's actually kind of standard fare, to be honest with you. It's removing the dice that's a little bit, it makes me go, oh, I don't really want to do that, because the less dice you roll, the less chance it is in order to be able to do something and whatnot. But at the same time, every dice you remove can go damage to something else, and then use Fake Out Strike in order to set that up for a strong attack. Use the special ability to remove whatever one of those damages you did to deal 2 damage to something else. It's a big puzzle. There's a lot of puzzle, there's a lot of moving parts, there's a lot of go with the flow, as I mentioned before, with Zack. These things move around and bounce around like the air currents that he fights with and things along that ways while he is the Black Omega Ranger. It is possibly one of the coolest, most thematic uses of the air elemental that I can think of, and I hope that later Rangers that we see that actually use air as their like main source of power, like in the Mystic Forks, for example, kind of have something similar to this. I love it, I think it's great, and I want to see more of it. 90s kids out there, please tell me you get this. Can't touch this. 1 energy reaction card. Play this card when any ranger suffers damage to reduce that damage by 1 for each enemy card in this battle that has suffered damage or has been defeated. Do you realize that you can make this an 8 reduction card if you set things up correctly? Now, that's a little extreme. That's every single card on the field having at least 1 damage on it and or being already defeated. But hey, by the time something probably hits you later on, I mean, if it's a little bit later in the fight and whatnot, and you're getting hit by like a 4 or 5 hit attack, there's a very good chance you can have 4 cards on the field that have a little bit of damage sprinkled around on it. You play Can't Touch This, and boom, all of that is reduced. Possibly one of my favorite damage reduction style cards that I've seen in the game, other than ones that actually do some type of counterattack as well. Doesn't really matter. I love it. I love how Zack is sitting there with his commas, that's what they are. They're commas, spinning them around like a giant shield in front of him. Speaking of his power weapon, Omega Commas. 3 energy, 3 dice attack, divide 3 damage divided among any number of enemy cards adjacent to the target. Again, remember, adjacent, up, down, left, and right. So if you're fighting a monster card, there's one to his left, one to the right, and then possibly a foot soldier below it. Again, also ignoring guard. That's the power of this particular ability that Zack likes to play off. To deal 3 damage divided among any number of enemy cards. So it's not even 3 damage per enemy card. It's not 1 damage for up to 3. You have 3 damage that you can play with to go left, right, down, however you want to go with it. And then, of course, it is the standard 3 dice attack against whatever it is that's in front of you. So initially, the 3 energy, 3 dice is not that great, but then dealing that 3 damage as you choose could really make the difference between the Rangers having to deal with a powerful attack next or giving them a free turn to do something else, to set themselves up, to get them ready to follow up another attack against a strong enemy. I love dividing damage. It's amazing. And that brings us to Omega Forever, a 0 energy reaction card. Play this card at the end of battle, roll 2 dice, and deal that much damage to an enemy card of your choice. Again, just like with the other Omegas, this is going to be the same picture on all of them, which is great because it shows the entire team there. The card having the black background with this is really cool. I very much enjoy it. Again, I'm not 100% sure I would like this at all because you have to wait to the end of the battle to really take advantage of it. You need to wait until all cards have resolved, every bit of damage and everything like that has come out. And if I can't stack this, then I'm only doing a 2 dice attack that could possibly completely whiff, as it most likely will, or up to maybe possibly only 2 damage against something that may need more. It's a little bit too much to have to consider for the end of the battle when I like just defeating cards as I go on. And again, I don't know if this stacks. You guys got to let me know that yourselves if that's what you think it does. And that brings us to Zack's Omega Zord, Omega Black Zord. Does not divvy out damage like you would think it would. Instead, exhaust this card when an enemy card is defeated, gain 1 energy. So it just gains an energy by exhausting it. Any ranger may exhaust another Zord card to gain an additional 3 energy. That's 4 possible energy that the Omega Black Zord can add to your team by exhausting it, and then of course another Zord card. The problem that you always have to keep in mind with the Omega Zords is if you're using all 3 Omega Zords, then yes, you can exhaust 2 of them or whatever in order to get whatever power up you can. But you're using more Zords. You're using more resources that you would have in order to be able to defeat enemies or monsters, foot soldiers, things along that ways by giving yourself a boost to something else. Now, there's a lot of things that you can do with 4 energy. There's countless things that you can do with 4 energy, which is amazing. So in that case, maybe it's worth it exhausting the Black Omega Zord and then any other Zord of your choice. But at the same time, just to exhaust it to gain 1 energy in a clutch moment could really make the difference. As I always ask, let me know what you think of combos down in the comment section below. I would love to hear how many of you have actually comboed off of something like this with other Rangers and how the Omegas play in other teams as opposed to just them being all on their own. Trini Kwan, Omega Yellow Ranger. Formerly the Yellow Mighty Morphin Power Ranger, Trini headed into space along with Zack and Jason and obtained the powers of the Omega from the Blue Morphin Emissary. Trini was given Earth powers, making her the Yellow Omega Ranger, and then, with Kia, the Blue Omega Ranger, set out to protect the galaxy. That is, until Kia turned on her team and became an evil ranger. In the end, it was Trini's power and her own sense of leadership that ended up defeating Kia and stopping her reign of terror. Trini's special ability and Morphing Call, Omega Earth Power. Once per battle, when any ranger plays an attack card, they may discard another card with the same name from their hand. If they do, add 2 dice to that attack. Yes, this does involve removing cards from your hand. You don't want to have that happen too often because you don't want to have nothing to play as you're going through. But at the same time, this is the same type of ability that Trini had when she was the Yellow Mighty Morphin Power Ranger. You have a lot of Rangers that have attack cards that appear twice in their decks. Now, at least if somebody has two of the same one, Trini can summon forth her Omega Earth powers and power up the one attack card by discarding the other one in their hand. Adding 2 dice of attack, never a bad idea because it does increase damage output. And then of course you have your rerolls and other things as well that you can stack on top of it. Like all the other Omega Rangers, Trini's deck has 5 0 cost energy, 4 1 energy, and 1 3 energy cost cards within it. She has 7 attacks, 2 maneuvers, and 1 reactions, which I'm surprised at. I figured she would have 8 attacks, double on all of them, but that's okay. She also has the standard Type A 3-4-3 shield breakdown, which is different again from her Saber-Tooth Tiger deck, which I believe had Type C, I believe. A lot of 2 shields in that one. I'm actually really surprised that her shield breakdown was changed to the standard Type A when she became an Omega Ranger, especially because, again, she had a unique style of shield breakdown for the original team, very different from all the other ones. And I thought that would translate into here because they gave her double team ability in a sense, but hey, what can you do? Find weakness, here we go. Our first card here, a 0 cost maneuver card. Gain 1 energy. The next time any Ranger performs an attack during this battle, add 2 damage to that attack. 2 straight damage. Let's not worry about rolling. Let's not worry about taking any chances or whatever. I am more than fine with being able to do 2 straight damage to guarantee to hit something as opposed to rolling a dice and hoping that we don't whiff it on complete misses and whatnot. This also plays into well with Zack's abilities because now you're dealing 2 guaranteed damage to a set target. He can then jump in there with his special ability to remove one of those energy or one of those damage and then deal 1 damage to something else. And then of course he can jump in again on the next attack after that in order to continue to spread it around. Zack and Trini work very well together. Earth and air elements, as much as you think they oppose, they also complement each other, which is I really think is more of the way that they're supposed to work elementally. They're supposed to cover each other's weaknesses and thus make them stronger as a whole as compared to an individual attack ability. Next we have Tenacious Blow, a 0 cost 2 dice attack. While this card is in your discard pile, its shield value is reduced by 1. Why is that important? Because you can then pull this back to your hand for less of a recovery cost. Instead of a 2 shield, it is now a 1 shield in your discard pile. And that's great too, because if you have both Tenacious Blows in your hand, then you throw one to the discard pile and you play the other one immediately using Trini's ability in order to add dice to it. So now you have a 0 cost 4 dice attack. Man, these guys like to add dice to all these cheap attacks. Thus throwing Tenacious Blow, the second one, into your discard pile. When you recover, instead of needing 4 shields worth of recover to pull them back to your hands, you only need 2. That is, again, that's another ability that I don't see very often in other Rangers. The ability to reduce shield costs from your discard pile, thus making recover actions more, I don't want to say worth it, but being able to pull more back as opposed to, needing 4 shields in order to do something instead of just 2. I love it. It's great. But to really take advantage of this, you need to have both Tenacious Blows into your hand. When playing, Trini by yourself, that's no problem. When playing solo, a little more difficult to pull off. If you haven't noticed by now, Trini has a giant hammer. One of the smallest Rangers, most petite Rangers, has a massive hammer to do destruction with. I love it. It is such an amazing thing. Trini Smash with Earth Smash. 1 energy, 2 dice attack. After you resolve this attack, you may choose cards with a total of up to 2 shields from your discard pile and place them on the bottom of your deck in any order. Again, both Tenacious Blows are in her discard pile. She can play this and take both of them back immediately because they are considered 1 shield cards while in her discard pile. They go on the bottom of her deck, so now at the very least, if she's going to draw, she has powerful attack cards that she can use, or she has 4 shields worth of defense ready to go up against an attack. I love it. It's not going to work for a 3 shield card, but you know what? Again, 2 Tenacious Blows, if you can manage to pull off that combo, amazing. Avalanche Swing, a 1 energy, 2 dice attack that also deals 1 guaranteed damage. If you discard this card from your hand while playing it, you may spend 1 energy to deal 1 damage to an enemy card of your choice. I wish I didn't have to spend that energy. I really wish that it would just be something that happens. It would be an additional ability for Avalanche Swing where if you discard this from your hand, you're still doing that 1 guaranteed damage that you see on the end of the card to a card on the field. It's still not a bad thing to do a guaranteed damage and then just just taking that hammer and knocking some enemy skulls around. Man, that thing is huge. I've talked about it a few times during this video, so here we are, the Omega Maul. 3 energy, 4 dice attack. You may play this card as normal, or immediately after another ranger resolves an attack or maneuver with an energy cost of 1 or 0. Basically, you're saying you're either going to play this card as is, you're just going to 3 energy, 4 dice attack, or you're going to play this card as a reaction, an attack reaction for the Maul, resolved after an attack or a maneuver from another ranger that happened to play something of 1 or 0 cost. So could you imagine having Zack play his 0 cost 4 dice attack, if you manage to get that maximum right there against an enemy, and then not doing as much as you want, not doing as much damage and being able to defeat it? Here comes Trini spending 3 energy, swinging her hammer around, doing an additional 4 dice attack immediately afterwards. That's the power of the Maul. It either is played by itself as is, or played as a reaction to a 0 or 1 energy maneuver or attack card, which is also great because there's a lot of maneuvers within this game that just grant an energy, so you may be short any, whatnot. And the one thing I've never really liked about certain maneuvers is because it takes a turn in battle, you're not dealing out any damage. You're not doing anything to get rid of anything on the field. Yes, you're further enhancing the next attack, but nothing is happening right then and there. Omega Maul fixes that because at least it gives you a possible option to jump in and do an attack after doing some type of setup. And of course we have Omega Forever, our 0 cost reaction card. All the Omega Rangers have one of these in their deck. Play this at the end of battle. Roll 2 dice and deal that much damage to an enemy card of your choice. Again, I roll my eyes at it because I can't see myself really using this that often because I don't like waiting to the end of battle to do stuff. And then if I end up doing that, is it really going to be worth it? But hey, you know what? I may find myself in certain situations, maybe early in the game or whatever, where I'm only dealing with foot soldiers, and at the very end of the battle, I have 1 foot soldier remaining that has 2 life left. Omega Forever, why not? Throw that down and at least give a shot in order to be able to defeat it. You never can tell. I love the way the Omega Rangers look. I love their designs. I love all of their color schemes and things along that ways. And I hope that we see more of them in the future. I hope we see them within the new reboots. I hope we see them more within the comics. And I hope that they come back again, because having more Jason, Zack, and Trini is never a bad thing. And then when you have these powerful Rangers, please join my team to help me defend my planet. Speaking of defending planets, we have the Omega Yellow Zord. Exhaust this card when any Ranger suffers damage, reduce that damage by 2. Any Ranger may exhaust another Zord card to prevent that damage entirely. So a lot of the earlier fights that you're going to have will only have maybe like 1, 2, 3 damage coming at your Rangers. Reducing it by 2 isn't so bad. You're going up against a monster or a boss that happens to have like an 8 damage strike or something along that ways. You want this yellow Omega Zord, you want to have another Zord in the hopper in order to be able to say no to absolutely all of it. I thought Zack had a great defensive card, and he does in the long run with his card within his deck, but defensive Zord-wise, this plus the cost of another Zord to completely negate any single source of damage when you're going up against monsters that do 5, 6, 7 damage at a time, that is worth it in my opinion, to not only tap this, but also an additional Zord. You may not be able to use the ability of that other Zord, but man, completely preventing all that damage and keeping all your Rangers in the fight, stopping it from happening and just moving on to the next thing. Amazing, amazing ability. And that's why I love the Omega Rangers. The more I read about them, the more I learn about them, the more I see what they can do, the more I can't wait to play them and show you guys exactly what they are all about. And there you have it, our Omega Rangers, Jason, Zack, and Trini. Yeah, one day I hope to get Kia and possibly Yale, both of them, as Blue Omega Rangers. But until then, I can't wait to really show you guys what these guys have in store, what they can do, and how they play in the game that I will be playing with them shortly after I do another breakdown for you guys, focusing on the villains from the Boom comic book series. But now I want to throw it at you guys. What do you think of the Omega Rangers? What do you know about their history and, how they affect the Ranger world as a whole? I just know based off of what I have done in terms of research-wise, finding stuff out on the internet. I have not read the actual comic book series that these guys are from. I know a lot of you out there have probably read that, so I'd love to hear a little bit more background about them, what you think of them, how you like their story, how they, again, incorporate themselves, with other Ranger teams and whatnot, especially now within Heroes of the Grid. How did they combo off them? Have you used any like that? Have you gone ahead and made games using Omega Rangers and how they fare for you? All that stuff and more, of course, I would love to pick all your brains about and everything, but mostly just want to learn more about the Omega Rangers, so this way, as more stuff comes out featuring them, I can just get more and more excited because, hey, like with the Hyperforce, the more I see of that come out, the greater they are. Also, quick note for those of you that have Rangers United, if you're wondering why I don't have the Violet Solar Ranger within this group here, she's not an Omega Ranger, she's a Solar Ranger. That's an entirely new group of Rangers that was created for the comic books that maybe we'll see them one day, maybe we will, maybe we won't, who knows, but right now she is listed under allies for me right now and is not part of the Omega Rangers. And if we ever get Kia and Yale or Yale or whatever, they'll probably have to go into another Ranger ally thing as well, because I've covered these guys and I'll have to cover them at some point in some way, shape, or form. That means in order not to miss any future Power Rangers Heroes of the Grid breakdowns, whether they're going to be heroes, villains, or whatever it happens to be sure you are subscribed to the Home Gamer Dad. Let's see you down there. If you're not subscribed already, it probably did like a little shiny thing to it. And if you hit that button, it's going to do something, a crazy explosion, because YouTube likes the flare, apparently. Definitely hit that notification icon so this way you're aware of all the new videos that I have them put up. And of course, if you'd like to support the channel even further, a super thanks is always welcome. You can head on over to patreon.com/homegamerdad to join the family over there. Otherwise your view, your like, your share, your comment, all of that goes a long way into helping the channel grow and making it so I can create more of these videos for you and we can talk about and enjoy the world of Power Rangers, no matter if it's in the TV, comic book, or wherever. Thank you guys again. Take care of yourselves and each other. We are family forever, gaming together, Omega forever, gaming together, I should really say. Until next time, you guys have a good one, and I will see you later.